Welcome to the jungle. Setting the stage. The early 90s. A time of change. A time of unrest. The music scene was about to explode. And at the center of it all were two bands, Nirvana and Guns N' Roses. Two bands that couldn't have been more different, yet both captured the spirit of the time. Nirvana, hailing from the rainy streets of Seattle, brought grunge to the masses. Their raw, angst-ridden sound spoke to a generation disillusioned with the status quo. Guns N' Roses, on the other hand, were the epitome of Hollywood excess. Their hard-rocking anthems and over-the-top stage shows embodied the glam metal scene. The tension between these two bands reflected a larger cultural shift. Grunge was raw, stripped down, and authentic. Glam metal, with its big hair and flashy outfits, was seen as increasingly irrelevant. The battle lines were drawn, and the stage was set for a clash of the titans. Smells Like Teen Spirit versus Sweet Child O' Mine, defining the divide. Nirvana's music was a punch to the gut, raw, powerful, and unapologetically real. Smells Like Teen Spirit wasn't just a song, it was an anthem for a generation yearning for something more. Guns N' Roses, with their soaring vocals and epic guitar solos, offered a different kind of escape. Sweet Child O' Mine was a love song, but it was also a testament to the power of rock and roll. These two songs, released just a few years apart, represented a seismic shift in the musical landscape. Nirvana's grunge was the sound of rebellion. Guns N' Roses' glam metal was the sound of a fading era. The clash was inevitable. From Seattle to Sunset Strip, charting the rise of two titans. Nirvana's rise was meteoric. Fueled by the raw power of Smells Like Teen Spirit, their album Nevermind took the world by storm. They were the voice of a generation hungry for authenticity. Guns N' Roses climbed the ladder of success a few years earlier. Their debut album, Appetite for Destruction, was a runaway success. It catapulted them to superstardom. They became the poster boys for a generation obsessed with rock and roll excess. The two bands' paths to success couldn't have been more different. Nirvana, with their DIY ethic, became icons of the underground. Guns N' Roses, embraced by MTV and radio, became symbols of mainstream rock. But their paths were destined to cross. The VMAs incident, when worlds collided. The 1992 MTV Video Music Awards. The air crackled with anticipation. Nirvana and Guns N' Roses, both at the height of their fame, were under one roof. The tension was palpable. It all came to a head backstage. An offhand comment from Axl Rose to Kurt Cobain's wife, Courtney Love, sparked a confrontation. Words were exchanged. Threats were made. The clash spilled onto the stage. During Nirvana's performance, Kurt Cobain taunted Axl Rose, nearly smashing his guitar into the frontman's prized piano. The crowd went wild. The feud was no longer a backstage whisper. It was out in the open. Section 5. A War of Words. Cobain versus Rose in the public eye. The VMAs incident ignited a media firestorm. Kurt Cobain, never one to shy away from controversy, used interviews to take shots at Axl Rose and everything Guns N' Roses represented. He saw them as dinosaurs, relics of a bygone era. Axl Rose, known for his fiery personality, didn't hold back either. He fired back at Cobain, calling him a hypocrite and a sellout. The war of words raged on in music magazines and on MTV. The feud became a cultural touchstone. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about two different worldviews colliding. It was about the future of rock and roll. Section 6. Grunge versus Glam. A Clash of Cultures. The Nirvana versus Guns N' Roses feud went beyond the music. It represented a clash of cultures. Grunge, with its flannel shirts and ripped jeans, was a rejection of the excess of the 80s. Glam metal, with its big hair and tight pants, was seen as outdated and out of touch. Nirvana's rise signaled a changing of the guard. Grunge, with its raw emotion and DIY aesthetic, resonated with a generation disillusioned by the glitz and glamour of the Sunset Strip. Glam metal, once the dominant force in rock, was suddenly on the outs. The Feud was a visible manifestation of this cultural shift. Nirvana represented the future. Guns N' Roses, for all their success, were becoming a symbol of the past. Section 7. Divided We Stand. The Fanbase Schism. The Nirvana versus Guns N' Roses feud divided music fans. On one side were the grunge kids. They embraced Nirvana's raw honesty and DIY ethic. They saw Guns N' Roses as sellouts. On the other side were the metalheads. They loved Guns N' Roses' hard-rocking anthems and over-the-top stage shows. They saw Nirvana as whiny and depressing. The rivalry played out in high schools and on MTV. It was more than just a difference in musical taste. It was a battle for the soul of rock and roll. Section 8. Beyond the Feud, the Enduring Legacy. The Nirvana versus Guns N' Roses feud ultimately transcended the individuals involved. It became a symbol of a cultural shift, a changing of the guard in the world of rock and roll. Nirvana's influence on music is undeniable. They paved the way for a new generation of bands that valued authenticity over image, bands that weren't afraid to be vulnerable. Guns N' Roses, despite their controversies, left their own mark on rock history. Their blend of hard rock and punk continues to inspire musicians today. The feud may be over, but its legacy lives on. A reminder that rock and roll is about more than just music. It's about attitude. It's about rebellion. It's about change. Section 9. A Final Thought. Echoes of Rebellion. Looking back, the Nirvana versus Guns N' Roses feud was more than just a clash of personalities. It was a clash of ideologies, a reflection of a society on the brink of change. Nirvana's raw emotional honesty resonated with a generation yearning for something real, something authentic. Guns N' Roses, with their over-the-top spectacle, represented the fading excesses of a bygone era. The feud may be over, but the music remains, and with it, the spirit of rebellion that defined a generation.